Welcome once more to Time to Draw. Today I am going to draw by suggestion of my good friend Michael Ignacio. I'm going to draw, he suggested I draw my favorite female character from Battlestar Galactica. So, granted this is a bit of a cheat since it's about 1,000 characters, but I really like number 6. Tricia Helfer is an amazing actress and shows wonderful amount of range in the show because of that. And I mean, it's a great show all around. But I picked her partially because she's iconic and kind of simple, and I wanted to do something kind of simple for once. So I have a little bit of a gesture drawing here. Not a whole lot at the moment, but I've got some. You probably see parts of it since I have the non-photo blue. What's interesting is that non-photo blue started out with media that you would have to take a picture of it, like say in comics, and it wouldn't register on traditional media. But digital media picks it up just fine. So, there are times I wonder, does non-photo blue need a different name now? So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a few details to what I already have. I'm not trying to do anything really dramatic, since this is the non-photo blue portion. But I am trying to get an idea of where everything's going to go. Somebody out there's probably thinking, hey, you're supposed to get rid of your references when you're actually working. Well, not really. I'm making sure that I don't have to keep looking back to my references. That's what I'm doing here. The nice thing about non-photo blue is if you're very light with it, it erases easily. Even more than most regular pencil. The same can't necessarily be said for other colors. But non-photo blue will come up easily. Now, to be fair, if you get really heavy with non-photo blue, it's not going anywhere. That's why you see me here erasing part of the outline. Here's a spot where, hey, you know what? The artist for once didn't make the boobs big enough. What the heck did that happen? Didn't make the hips big enough either. There's not a whole lot of detail in this, and that's one of the things I like about the image that I'm basing this on, is it's simple. You just take in the lines, the color, and you're there. You get the whole thing. Nothing to have to make out. Not that many seams. In fact, the most dynamic and odd thing is this spot right here where it's open skin. So, one of the things that I like about Battlestar is that it is honest in its humanity. Um, for most of the time, of the main 7 cast members that are noted in the opening credits, there's hardly ever an occasion where all seven of them are on the same side. They are usually opposed to one another, because we have people, even though they're on the same overall side, that people get opposed to each other. And that's something I can really appreciate. All you have to do is look at someone's taste in music or comic books, and it's easy to say politics. So that's why I'm saying other things. Movies, actors and actresses they like, anything, and no one's going to agree with everyone else. There's always going to be some dissent, and that's where a lot of Battlestar Galactica's power comes from. There are people who should be absolutely united, and they're not. I mean, sure, you're saying, hey, Glenn, you're drawing the killer robots that are trying to kill them all. Yes, but even among the killer robots, it's always not that simple. I don't have to be perfect here. I'm trying to be. So the purpose of non-photo blue is, in a lot of ways, to map out where you're going. If you're taking a trip, you need some direction. That's the purpose of non-photo blue, to give you that direction. I'm a little caught up in what I'm doing at the moment, I know. Some people will tell you that hands and feet are some of the trickiest things to draw, and there are times when I completely agree. All right. Okay. So you're starting to get a little idea of how this is going to look. So because of that, we're going to go on to my preferred F pencil. Again, there are many realms of thought on how to do pencil work. one of the easiest is just find a spot and dive in. Especially in something like this. It's not as important to get one area over another because with the line simplicity, it's all going to tie back to itself. There aren't that many wrinkles, natural folds, and stress. So. You're going to find with this one, I'm not going to do much on shading. Not on the main part of it, at least. I'm just using my finger today. I don't feel like grabbing anything else. That, and since there's so little involved, composition, I'm not gonna actually need anything else. Not with the main drawing. Not with that main drawing. Now, I am going to do some background. Not detailed background, just stuff to make the image pop. Since is so simple, I can do some of the overall shading as I draw. Typically, it's better to leave the shading to do all at once. This is a case where the shading's the bulk of the lines, and it would probably be a little more complicated to figure out where the lines are without the shading in this case. So here we are. Part of my thought process here is, do I want to keep going this way and go around? Do I want to go the opposite side? Do I want to try to jump over here? In all honesty, despite what I said a moment ago, as the one doing the drawing, you're going to be the one who always knows where to put the lines. Once you have experience with it, and you have faith in yourself and what you can do, you're going to know where to put the lines. Okay. The other advantage, another major advantage of non-photo blue, is you can see where a lot of stuff is going, and if you don't like where something's at, when you go to do the actual drawing, you just change the position. Have all sorts of references sitting around in the form of lines to guide you. Okay. I was really close with where I initially put the fingers in when I used non-photo blue, but I felt like they were a little misproportioned. Okay. Yeah, it's not perfect, but I'm just gonna move on. Sometimes you just have to accept that your picture's not gonna be perfect. That's okay. If I wanted perfect, I have to get someone else to do it. one of the initial ideas I had when Michael suggested I do this drawing was that I actually get a little past this point. Then I do something that you haven't seen me do in a video before. Just do raw inks and a little splash of color. I still may. Probably not in this video. There is a big source of light in the source image that is behind her, behind 6 here. So I'm going to actually show that's going to be the last big piece of shading I'm going to do. Is this going to be shading roughly there and roughly there? But again, it's roughly. However, go ahead and do that. Unlike the opposite thumb, I like this thumb on the right side of the picture a lot better. It's one of those things you start drawing a lot and you realize, hey, I like this part of this drawing really well, but this other part over here, I don't like it so much. Which is fine. All you have to do is just continue to enjoy what you're drawing. If you enjoy the piece as a whole, then you did something right. If you enjoy the process of it, you did something right. Despite what some would have you believe, it's easier to do something right than wrong. Any creative endeavor. Are you enjoying it? Then you probably did something right. I'm just putting a softer curve on some of these lines so they don't quite look as rugged. Anyone familiar with this character would tell you she's strong, but rugged is not one of her features. It's not really a feature of any of the 6s. This one is just another F pencil. Kept it sharpened to a finer point so that I can use it on smaller details. I'm actually going to be using it very shortly. I'm still using this initial pencil because I want to go a little softer. A harder edge creates a sharper point will create a finer line as far as width, but for that line to show up, typically takes more effort, more pressure, and that's what makes it darker. What makes it dark. That's when it's hard to actually. So I'm half drawing, sketching. There's the word, sketching. What I'd like to do with the pencil I've used on most of this. I'll use this pencil to clean up a lot of the details. I fully admit that when I first heard about the newer version of Battlestar Galactica, I wasn't that impressed. I didn't really have any momentum or desire to watch it. A very good friend of mine brought by a copy of the miniseries. And when I saw that, I was rather hooked. I was taken by just how strong the storytelling and the acting was. I was like, wow, this is a really cool show. Ugly line there. I'm bringing in the general shapes of her hair. There are many, so I'm just bringing in the ones that I know I need with a finer point, with a broader point, I should say. Okay, we're almost to the point. I'm going to switch pencils. There's a lot of shading around this eye, so that's why I want to get a very softer version first. Much softer version. I'm not going to put very many lines in her hair because this 6 is platinum blonde and lines would take away from that. So I'm just putting enough in to where you can get a good impression of her hair, and then I'm going to stop. Give an impression of cheeks. Just an impression. Don't need anything more than that. Okay. I'm just doing this to give a solid impression of the color without using any color. That other leg in there too. This isn't quite going to be in cross-hatching, but it's going to use that basic idea. Now, if I thought beforehand, yeah, I probably would have gotten a Q-tip or something, but honestly, it's going to be so light that I'm not going to need it. Okay. Just going to use my finger again. It's getting a little more shading into her now. Clean up those lines. I promised I'd do something else to make her pop out. So here we go. Gonna have to turn it a little bit to pull this one off, but won't take long at all. This is the pencil equivalent of making a gradient. I'm using it harder and harder as I get further and further from the center. But I also have to obey the perspective lines. Just filling in a little more there. Okay, move over here and do the same thing. Be a little easier this time. Very light along that edge. Let's go a little darker this time. And a little darker still. And a little darker still. I didn't really have to go all this far out with it, but I wanted to. Okay, so now here's the cheat. See, it's much more even now. Okay. By moving inward, it evens that gradient out. And it's not really a gradient. It's the idea is to use that as a way to express the change of lighting. One more part making this work. See, some of this is a little rough still. I'm just doing this to grab the excess more than anything else, really. Okay. I'm pretty pleased with where we've ended up. So we're going to sign off right there. And wow, that was a little quicker than most of them have been in the past. Again, simpler line, did some shading. May come back a later episode and actually do some ink and a little bit of copy on this. But until then, this is Lynn Berry, and this has been Time to Draw.